So we often get stuck, don't we, on this spiritual path? But being stuck and being in a dilemma is a wonderful opportunity. We're going to talk about what's going on spiritually, and we're also going to talk about scientifically what's going on in your neurological pathways and what exactly you need to do to be able to get yourself through this dilemma, this crisis, or this stuckness. So we're just going to introduce the idea that spiritual awakening is just life, isn't it? It's nothing separate, but everything in this life is spiritual. Why is that? Well, because there's an extra dimension of us that's transcendent of this physical expression of life. It's non-physical, and science is even beginning to show signs that it can prove this, which is wonderful, which is why I'm taking my cue and bringing science and spirituality together to the best of the ability that I can. Requires me to do a lot more work, because science is not a huge interest of mine. I mean, it is partly, but we'll dive into this today. Before we do that, before we can work out how to get unstuck, one thing you might find that will help, and I've created it for you for this reason, is the complimentary Freedom Toolkit down below. It's completely free. I want you to have it. I've made it for you with you in mind, so you might as well sign up and give it a go. Also, down below, there's the Freedom Blueprint application form you can apply to work with me, should you wish, but you have to make sure that you're the right sort of person for that, because I will ask a lot of you. Good, moving on. So why are we stuck? Well, stuck or being in crisis or having a dilemma is really, well, what is a dilemma? It's me recognizing perhaps that I have two options and I'm not sure which way to go. And this can be various different things, like I could be working in a job that I don't really like, and I'm not sure if I'm just going to keep doing it because it's easy and I'm good at it maybe, but I'm getting the money that I need, but I'm not really serving out my sole purpose, my primal urge, and perhaps I can feel something on the horizon coming. Maybe this might be the better way to go, but there's so much uncertainty around it. This is just one example. It could be a relationship. Is this working for me, isn't it? It could be anything like this. So, why are we stuck? Well, we're stuck because we don't have enough energy, or prana just means energy, in the system to be able to have the clarity to know what to do. And so that's why we must engage in some sadhana. Sadhana is just your daily spiritual practice to bring about the highest aliveness of energy in the system, so that we gain that clarity, so that we can know what to do, even if it feels or seems on the outside uncertain, which of course it is. All of life is uncertain, and one thing you can guarantee is that you're going to do the work and you don't know if you're going to get anything out of it. And so we have to bring this down to a base level of the reason why I'm doing this work is just to feel good, or even deeper than that perhaps, I'm just doing the work to get out of my limiting beliefs. So limiting beliefs are really important here, because we are believing things to be true about myself that limit me. Any form of belief is limiting, whether that's a worldly belief, a religious belief, love you lots, I'm going to annoy people, or a spiritual belief. They're all beliefs, which implies mind, which implies mentality, which implies idea, which implies ideal. I'm being idealistic in my thought process. I'm thinking about things and believing things to be true that I don't know are true yet. This is a belief. It's semi-physical, a belief, isn't it? Because it's real for me, but it's only relatively real for me, because my belief about something may not be real for somebody else. So it's my little slice of belief truth, but it may not be true for everybody else. And so we're not asking people to all believe the same things. We're actually asking people to just have a look at what beliefs you're buying into that might limit you. Because as you're doing that, your biology, which is what the human animal is, it is a biological process, isn't it? Guaranteed, job done, that's what it is. I am biological. And the voice that's coming from me is biological. But there is this transcendental nature to me that isn't biological and isn't physical. It's in this world, but it's not of it. This is my observer or my witness capacity. I can observe thoughts as they move, and I think these thoughts are me. Oh, you're stupid, you're rubbish, I'm better than you, I'm worse than you. They're just thoughts and they change. Anything that changes cannot be, in a way, real. Why? Because it comes and goes. It can't be permanent. And these are what beliefs are. They're just thoughts that we believe and that we keep thinking. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And you'll see these patterns in your life, won't you? Well, all that's happening is we've trained our neurological pathways to run in a certain track. This is scientific explanation now. Imagine the Grand Canyon. Just to bring it back to some sort of analogy, the Grand Canyon is very deep, and the reason that the water always flows in that direction is because of the depth of the cavern. Why? Because it's been flowing that way for years, probably hundreds of years, probably thousands of years, and so there's an easy groove, isn't there, for the water to move through. But if the water wants to change direction, it's going to have a tough time changing direction because there's such a natural path. This is like our pathways, our neurological pathways. We have them flowing in a certain direction because of the ease of them. Not that they're right and not that they're true, but let's talk about a negative belief system. My neurological pathways are going to flow that way because they always have flowed that way, thanks to the conditioning that I've experienced, thanks to my own karma. Karma means action, my own actions, my own physical actions, my own thought actions, my own emotional and energetic actions. And so if I'm continually moving my energy, my water, in a certain way, then of course there's naturally a deep groove in my neurology. So to change is difficult. That's why we need sadhana, because it will help us change the pathways neurologically inside of the mind. So when our synapses in our brain, our pathways are firing in a certain way, this might be why we're stuck. It's not necessarily that we're stuck, but because we've done a little bit of work on side of ourselves, we know there's more to us. And we know that there's another opportunity, another different future, a different karmic future, action future that I can take. But we take these Grand Canyon actions, the ones that we've always done, as true because they've created an identity, haven't we? We've created an identity. It's me. I'm not good enough. Why am I not good enough for you? Why is this blah, 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 blah. They're all belief systems. They're all mental. But we take them as true because they're so closely connected to our identity that we see as ourself, which is all mental. Me, the me in the mind. But the me in the mind is not who I am because I observe that transcendental nature that's non-physical, observes the changing me in the mind. Is the me in the mind in you the same as it was when you were a child? The answer is of course no. Is the me in the mind the same as it was yesterday? Well, it might be similar, but it's not the same because you can't say that it's a real thing. It always changes. But that which observes the changes of the mind, the mental structure, the mental me, is that changing? The answer is no, it's never changed, and it is what I am. So, if we're taking these mental me comments, the I in the mind comments to be true, then of course we're believing in ego, which is perfectly fine and perfectly natural, and we do this on our journey, and this begins to thin the more sadhana we do, and that's great. That's us akin to changing the direction of the flow of the water in the Grand Canyon in a new direction. So relatively, inside of ourselves, the biggest limiting belief system we have is believing that that mental me is me. Because it isn't me. Do I have a multiple personality disorder? Are there two me's? Because I see that me in the mind from the deeper me, my deeper awareness. So this can be why we're feeling very stuck. Because our destiny is calling us from beyond, it's not outside of ourselves, but let me use these terminologies, from beyond that mental me's beliefs. Let's say we have addiction in our lives. And if you don't think you have addiction in your lives, you do. Get honest with yourself. A phone addiction, a TikTok addiction, a food addiction, and I'm not separate from this. I don't sit outside of this. I've been through all of this. I still go through this process, I'm nowhere near can I say I've got my sword in the ground and this is where I'm standing. We can't do that because we're constantly evolving, we're constantly flowing, much like the Grand Canyon. It's just, how am I going to want to continue that flow? Do I want to keep going down the path that I've done? Do I want to keep investing in those neurological pathways firing in the way that they have done before? Well, I might if I'm really enjoying my life. But if we're honest with ourselves, the reason we're here is because we're wanting to grow. There's an insatiable need inside of us to evolve, to expand, to go further than we personally and our family has ever gone before. Isn't it true? So to do that, we have to change the neurological pathways. We have to change the way that those synapses are firing in the mind. So if destiny is calling me to become the next greatest version of myself, which is why we have this dilemma, should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? Which way should I go? Then if destiny is calling me and it's on the other side of that, then what's stopping me get there? It's my negative belief of self. It's my limiting belief that I believe in the mind that says, oh, I probably can't do that. Oh, there's too much uncertainty. Oh, I don't want to change. If believed in, we won't change. Isn't it? Moreover, it's the belief in rightness of the ego. As soon as the mind brings in something negative, instantly we believe it. Isn't it? And isn't that crazy? Because if a friend was talking to us like our mind talks to us, would they be a friend for very long? The answer is, of course, hell no. So sometimes we have to begin questioning the mind and its authority that it seemingly has over us. And of course, then that can be a really powerful thing to do. As we begin to question the authority in ourselves, we then might begin to question the authority that the outside world has over me. But that's maybe a story for another day. So we have to, and here's the answer, we have to challenge ourselves and challenge the mind to fire different neurological pathways and to change the direction of the flow of the energy or the flow of the Grand Canyon, isn't it? And that will take time and that will be frustrating, but now you know more, and less and limits are not good enough for you anymore. And so perhaps we should trust that. So how can I change the neurological pathways? Well, it's very simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. We have to change the thinking. Challenge that one that says, I won't be good enough for that. Because frankly, you have no right to believe that about yourself. Of course you're good enough to go and do that thing that it's almost been preordained that you should go and do, because your blueprint is made that way to go and do that thing. But even if we don't know what that thing is yet, then we've got to get more energy in the system. And again, the only way we do that is sadhana, because sadhana will create energy, and energy will create clarity and push those limiting beliefs further away and further away and further away from you until you become that little slice, that little jigsaw piece of life that you were always destined to be. I love you. So stop. Perhaps your life, you do what you want, but perhaps now we can challenge that negativity in the mind. Because if we don't challenge it, then we don't become the piece of life that we need to be for everybody else around us. And that is the most selfish waste of talent and our life energy that we could ever do. Lots of love. Namaste.